Welcome to the Fiscal Physical Podcast. Join us each week as we sit down with the founder of Alchemy Wealth Management and author of Your Fiscal Physical, Ryan Nelson. Tune in to gain valuable insights and practical tips as we simplify complex financial concepts into digestible lessons. From budgeting to retirement planning, this podcast is your go-to resource for mastering financial literacy.
Welcome, everybody, to this week's episode of the Fiscal Physical Podcast. My name is Aaron. I'm here, as always, with Mr. Ryan Nelson, founder of Alchemy Wealth Management and co-host of this podcast. And Ryan, how's the day treating you today?
Yeah, today's been great. How's your day going?
Not too bad. I had to pause to think about that for a minute, but yeah, not too bad. I actually I've been getting into crock potting recently.
Okay.
And so
Is this a joke? Is this the beginning of a stand-up bit?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. It kind of sounded like one, actually. Yeah. You guys ever heard about crock pots? Yeah, but no, I go through little phases like with cooking and such too. I work from home. So my wife works in the office. My kids at daycare. So I handle most of the meals, or at least prepping them. And I've been getting into crock pots recently, and they're quite easy. I can just throw a bunch of stuff in there, throw it on low for like 5 hours, and like you could throw in like the worst cut of meat. But if you cook it like in broth or whatever for like 5 hours, that thing is just tender as heck. Like, So anyway,
very domestic of you.
Yes, it is. It is quite. I was actually just thinking, I was like, because I have some beef marinated in a crock pot at home, so today's going pretty good. So to answer your question, today's going great.
Just can't wait to get your hands on it.
I really can't. Now I'm kind of salivating over here. But before we do that, let's dive into our topic today. So we're going to be talking about negotiating your net worth, how to approach the financial side of a job offer. This is an interesting topic because I think it's a relatively good problem to have. So I'll paint a picture for you. You've applied for a job, you've gone through rounds of interviews, and you receive the call or email that officially offers you that job. Phenomenal. Great. Mm-hmm. You're naturally going to be pretty excited about that, or you probably will be. But then the next step is the offer letter that's going to be sent over. You speak with HR or whatever the individual process is. Common practice and honestly a pretty critical step of the employment overall. So I've seen people, I've heard people just kind of naturally just accept the offer that's extended, move on to working with the company and kind of just move forward there, which is all well and good. I'm not here to give you specific advice, but today we want to talk about the importance of like negotiating your worth and how to do that and do it in a way that, it's a kind of an uncomfortable topic or uncomfortable situation. It can be, but not unless you don't make it that. So anyway, that's kind of the picture I'm painting here. So hopefully everybody has a real nice Picasso of what I just did there. But Ryan, I'm going to let you talk for a little bit just regarding this topic here.
Yeah, so as far as negotiating a salary goes, I think the first question I get is like, should I negotiate? Mm-hmm. And I think to your point, like, the answer is basically always yes.
Yes.
Right? So almost always yes. There are some circumstances where maybe a federal government job or something where it's just like a structured pay, right? Mm-hmm. You're at a certain pay level at this role. The next role has a structured pay increase, and they don't deviate from that, in which case it still doesn't hurt to ask about negotiating.
Right.
But obviously the answer is just going to be, we don't have the capacity to do so. So, you're not going to win every negotiation, but I think almost always you should at least approach the offer with a negotiation.
So a quick one here. It's funny. Those things that have like the, hey, cool, we don't negotiate or whatever. Those. When I bought my first car, I bought it from a place called CarMax, and they specifically say like, hey, no negotiating, no pricing. And so like, I went in there. We get down to the final like thing, and I like tried to negotiate, and the guy's like, no, we don't do that. And I was like, all right, well, I don't think I can do. And he was like, well, what do you want? It was really funny. I always remember that about like, can't hurt to ask.
Right,
like, and I was like, well, I'd love 4 new tires on this thing. And he's like, done. And I was like, okay, so maybe just anyway. But it's a funny story I think about there.
Yeah, that is funny.
Yeah.
Cool. So now you get a job offer, you're like, okay, I'm going to heed this advice. I'm going to negotiate. So now the question's like, when do I do this?
Right.
So I'd say you want to do it after you've gotten the verbal offer. So, and I'd say after you've received the written offer. So you're going to get a written offer. They're going to say, we're giving you a salary of $60,000, right? That's when you would then want to negotiate. So after you've already received the offer, you can push back, negotiate at that time. I would say you don't want to I'm not a negotiating expert, but you probably don't want to drag this on and do like 7 or 8 counter offers, right?
Sure.
Think about 1 or 2 counter offers, and move on, either accept the position or don't.
Mm-hmm.
And so, as you go into this process, I would say, like anything, you should have a target and a walk away. So it's almost like going into the car dealership. So you should know if you're looking to buy a F-150, you should know, hey, I'm not willing to pay anything above this price. Mm-hmm. You should just have just a flat out price. I will not pay above this. So maybe I don't even know what F-150s cost these days. Maybe your cost, you say, I won't pay a dime over $70,000, but I'd really like this for 60. Sure. Right. Yeah. So now if you're going into negotiations, you kind of know, hey, I want it for 60. Maybe I'm going to ask for 58. They come back. They're like, no, 65. Maybe, maybe you don't get it exactly for what but okay, I'm not paying a dime over 70. If they say, hey, the lowest we can go is 72, you don't now talk yourself into, okay, yeah, while you're there, you're making an emotional decision. Mm-hmm. Okay, I'll do 72. If you have those numbers up front, it keeps you from making those emotional decisions. You've thought about it, in a rational state of mind. Now you can go into the car dealership and know, okay, I'm not paying a dime over this. I really want to pay this. Similar with a job offer, you could say, hey, you can in your mind think, okay, I'm not going to take a dime under this. This is what I'm worth. This is what I'm making now, blah, blah, blah. This is my floor. I'm not taking anything less than that. I'd really like this number. Now you go into the negotiation. You're more well prepared, right? Also, I should note, typically these negotiations aren't going to be like live.
Right. Yeah.
So you don't have to walk into the negotiation per se.
Sure.
And be ready to fine tune your debating skills.
Yeah.
Right. But when I say go into the negotiation, I just mean enter into the period of time when you're discussing this with your employer. Typically it's going to be, you'll say maybe you do it live, or you call them and respond over the phone and say, this is what I'm looking for. Typically they're not going to have the conversation encounter right then. They'll have to go back and talk to the team or whatever. But then what I would also say is there's lots of different things you could be negotiating, right? So for instance, you could negotiate your base salary, a sign-on bonus. If there's clawback terms to the bonus, you could negotiate those terms. You could, if they're offering equity or a vesting schedule, you could negotiate those. You could negotiate your title and your level. You could negotiate your start date, your schedule, your PTO, your holidays, your a budget that they're going to provide to you if you're sales or professional development. So there's lots of different things you can negotiate. So you'd also want to identify going into the negotiation sort of what your priorities are. So do you maybe care about base pay and bonus? Or are you like, I don't really care that much about the pay. I care more about the time off and flexibility, right? Just know kind of what you're going in there, what your priorities are, and then you can use those and counter. So maybe they can't match. Maybe if you say, I don't care about the sign-on bonus, that's a one-time thing. I just want a higher salary and more flexibility, and they have these weird clawback, or they have this weird vesting schedule. I want that to go away. And so then as you're negotiating the salary, if they can't quite meet you where you want to be for the salary, you could always counter and say, okay, that's not what I'm looking for. Can you start me at 4 weeks of vacation instead of 2 weeks of paid time off? And, there's ways that you can help with those negotiations. So I'd say kind of think about all the different things you can negotiate. It's not just salary.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
And which ones are, most important to you.
Mm-hmm. Totally. And you nailed that right on the head there, as far as, I was like, most people think of negotiating, you get a job. It is specifically salary. But there's, as we've spoken about on previous episodes, there's a lot of stuff that goes into those benefits that you potentially, an extra 2 weeks of paid time off. Holy smokes, that adds up quick when you're, making X amount of money or whatever. You're making $100,000. I mean, you get an extra couple weeks off, you're almost $7,000 extra dollars into your pocket there. So so it's interesting to think about maybe you're cool, employers might not be willing to budge on the salary, but maybe they'll give you something else for it too. So can't hurt to ask.
And I'd also approach it with some sort of social proof, or proof points. If I was interviewing you for a job and you come to me and you're like, well, I want more money, I'm just like, Okay.
Okay.
I'm sure you
So
do.
do I.
Yeah. But if you can come back and say, hey, like I have this certain certification or I have this qualification, I'm overqualified for this role, or these are the results I drove in my last company, and they're quantified. Like these are the quantified results I drove in my last company, or, I've generated this much revenue, or, if you come with some sort of tangible proof of like success, or success is a good enough word, then it's easier to say, hey, I want this more money. This is why, right? It's not just I want this more money. I want this more money, and this is why it's reasonable to pay me that more money.
Totally.
I have the qualifications to support it. In my last role, I did this, right? Just start thinking about how, it is a negotiation. So what are you bringing to the table that justifies this extra value that you're requesting, right?
Totally. Yep.
So now you kind of do your due diligence. You set your floor. You say, okay, I'm not taking any less than this amount. This is my target amount. I've identified the things that I care most about: the salary, the time off, blah blah blah. I've identified a couple of things that kind of justify this increase in value that I'm going to provide, and thus why I'm asking for them to kind of reciprocate and provide more value back to me. Now, how do you do it? So I'd say, be professional.
Yeah.
So be enthusiastic, be positive, right? Make it clear. And, it's always great if you can have like market data that supports why your pay should be in this range. If you approach it positively, excited, and you say, I love this role, I'm so excited to work with you guys. I know that, based on some research, I know the market rate is this. It's a little bit higher than what you bring based on my past certifications. I think I'm worth at least the market rate. You can have a much better chance of it working. And I would say if you're live, or even if you're not live, like this is kind of a sales tactic, I suppose, but like just be quiet.
Right.
Once you've proposed your proposal, don't talk yourself out of it. Just be quiet and let them respond. Whether that's letting them email you back 2 weeks later, or if you are on the phone with them and you're waiting for their response, don't start talking yourself out of the job, out of the increase. Let them get back to you. Give them that opportunity to respond. So
which can be sometimes like an unnatural reaction to do. Because like people, if you're talking to somebody, most people just don't like silence. So it's like if you're just like, cool, I like this is why. Then you pause, and then it's natural to be like, well, I mean, that's negotiable. Like, you're like, yeah. Well, hold on here. Like, just give it. That's a very interesting, like, very simple thing that sometimes can get overlooked, like in negotiations, like the power of silence. I think I read something one time, and I was like, oh, interesting.
Yeah. Chris Voss has a great book. He's an old, I think, CIA, employee or whatever, but he has a good book on why split the difference, or never split the difference. It's a great book. It's on negotiations. So Chris Voss, Never Split the Difference. It's a great book. But yeah, he talks about that as well. And I mean, just listen to the difference in my words. If I come to you and I say, hey, okay, Aaron, I was hoping to make $65,000 a year. Would you be able to do that? Like, I mean, if not, I still want the 60. I still like the 60,000. Right, but if we could do like 65,000 or something, that'd be better. And could I get like more vacation time? Or if not, that's fine too. But you just like, it's much different than if I come to you and I say, hey, really, what I was looking to do was make $65,000 for this role.
Comes off way more powerful, like that.
Yeah, and then just stop and.
Okay. It's so funny the way you just spoke like that. I know several people who talk like that. Like they'll like at work. They'll
it's nervous too. It's a nervous position to be in.
At work, I work remotely, but like I'll get like a chat from a team member, and they'll like ask me a question if like they can do something or whatever, and then like if I don't respond right away, there's like 4 or 5 chats that come right after, like explaining or being like, well, actually, it's okay if we just do this instead. And I'm like, by the time I get there, I'm just like, all right, you just had to ask the one question and like wait for me to respond, but then it's like they're negotiating themselves out of it.
Sure.
Too. So it's always just funny to be like, okay, just say the one thing and we'll move from there.
Cool. So I think everybody's like, okay, this makes sense. Let's negotiate. I kind of know how, right? But still, the big fear in the back of your head at this point is probably, yeah, but what if they just don't give me the job then? What if they're offering me this job? What if I lose it? Or like, what is it's scary to ask for this, like all the what ifs, right? And so I think that, it's sometimes almost if you remove yourself and almost think about you giving yourself somebody else or giving somebody else advice, right? It'd be like, yeah, how rational is it that somebody likes you, they want you for the role, they've picked you out of everybody else, then you politely, professionally, enthusiastically ask for an increase in salary, not rudely, not as an ultimatum, right? You're not using like ridiculous numbers. You're not being hostile. You're not, it's not an ultimatum, but you just politely ask for an offer. They're not then just going to rescind the entire offer, right?
Yeah.
And, as long as you're polite and rational, they're going to work with you. And it doesn't mean they will be able to meet you. They may say, hey, sorry, this is like literally the most we can do. And that may be the most they can do. And if they have to stay firm and you're not willing to take that, then it's not going to work. So it's not that you're going to win every negotiation per se, but you're also probably not going to lose that job, right? Like if you ask for more and they say, sorry, we can't do it, you still have the opportunity to take the other role, right?
And most of the time when you get to that final piece of wherever that is, depends on the job, obviously, like they've put a lot of effort into it and you've also put a lot of, so it's like, asking for XYZ, if the answer is no, you probably still have that, like you mentioned, that original offer, like worst people say is no.
Right.
That's, you're still potentially have that job.
Right.
Like, I've never specifically heard of anybody being like, oh no, you wanted 5,000. Now the job's gone. Kind of thing. Like you maybe see it in like a movie or read it in a book, but like I was like, I don't think I've ever heard of that actually happening.
Exactly. And then if they can't meet you where you're at, you can do what we talked about before and think about other variables as well. Again, pay is not the only variable here, so we could just think about trade-offs and trading other variables. So, okay, I realize we're not going to meet eye to eye on the wages. Is there any way we could increase the paid time off or, maybe get a signing bonus, whatever. And they might be able to concede on some other variables, right?
Sure. Yeah.
So worth asking for sure, I think. I'd say that's the kind of the meat and potatoes of this. So I'd say it's a normal part of a job offer. It may feel scary to you, and it may be something you only do one or two times in your life. But for the person offering you the job, if they hire a lot of people, it's something they deal with probably day to day. So while it feels foreign to you and scary, it's just routine part of the process. So I would not be too worried about it. And again, as long as you're being like rational, polite, professional, I don't think you have anything to worry about. And oftentimes I think that the reality is if you're hiring a high level person for a high level job, you probably expect.
Absolutely.
Right? Like
100%.
It's probably something you would expect. So yeah.
No, that was going to be one of my points that I bring up. It's almost like when you get into those like higher paying roles or more important, like it's part of the game for good or bad. Like, but it is also, it shows like, hey, cool, what do you think of yourself as well? As you're like, hey, cool, I know this is the salary, but I believe that I'm worth XYZ. If you lay it out rationally and such too, there's a potential that they're going to meet you, or they're at least going to, whoever it is, could respect your, like you come, I always think if somebody comes with a well-articulated argument or discussion point, I automatically am like, cool, like you clearly have done your research, and that kind of, for myself, like makes me think a little bit more of that person just in general, whether it be salary negotiation or honestly anything in general. But if somebody comes prepared and is well thought out, articulate, great word, not me, it really kind of changes my point of view almost on them as well too. So 100%. Some interesting points.
Absolutely.
Awesome. Any red flags you'd say during a negotiation, Ryan, or something that like you tell people, maybe just be aware of this or kind of look at this when you're in those specific things?
Yeah, I mean, I would say you want to look out for, there'll be people who sign on and part of their compensation is some bonus structure that has like these vague terms, and the more vague it is, it's harder to identify. Right, like when you build some expectation in your head, those expectations they begin not coming true. What do you do? right? Like, so I'd say you want to avoid the vagueness, like make sure that the terms of the contract are clear. You understand what your compensation is. You know what your salary is going to be. You know what the bonuses are going to be. I would be, it's, something to be aware of. So it raise a red flag. It doesn't mean it's a deal breaker,
Sure.
But if there's going to be some like broad non-competes or non-solicitation agreements, that might be something you'd be aware of and say, okay, is this something I'm prepared to do? If I enter into this and I leave this company, I'm not going to be able to stay in this industry or stay in this particular job. Like, is that something I'm prepared to give up? So that'd be something to pay attention to. There are some, especially in like my industry, sometimes when people leave like a financial planning firm and join another financial planning firm, that new financial planning firm will give them this big bonus, but there'll be these huge clawback terms. So it's like, you have to stay with us for say 5 years. And if you don't, they'll claw back like all of the bonus or a large portion of the bonus. And so that'd be something to be aware of is, hey, if you're, they may pay you the bonus up front. You may then go spend the money on a new house. And now all of a sudden you're locked into working there for 5 years, because if you leave in 5 years, they're going to claw it back. Guess what? You're going to have to sell your primary residence. Like, that's not easy to do. So, it's be aware of sort of the terms of these bonuses. Also just kind of like almost when we talk about like elder abuse and scams and stuff, we've talked about it in the past. Yeah. If there's pressure or like this urgency, it's like, hey, I need you to accept this position in the next 12 hours or 24 hours or 48 hours. Be something to think about. Like, what type of business are they running? Like, are they just trying to not allow me to negotiate? Or like, why am I not given time to do my proper due diligence to determine if this offer is right for me? Like, a good employer is going to want to find a good fit between their employee and their employer. It doesn't behoove anybody to have a bad fit there, right? So yeah, there'd be a couple things just to kind of, keep your eyes and ears open for.
Sure. Yeah, I think that breaks it down really well there, Ryan, and hopefully everybody, learn something, or at least have some food for thought when you're going into your next job negotiation, and make sure that make sure it works for you, and ensure that everything is matches up with what you want to do, and as best as possible. And great tips there for sure, Ryan. And we'll go ahead and take a quick pause here. We'll be back on the other side of this. Everybody hang tight.
And now, to put the personal in personal finance.
Welcome back, everybody. This side of the Fiscal Physical podcast. Back on the personal side with some question for you here, Ryan. And as I was writing this question, I wrote it, and then I was revamping it, and I was like, well, Ryan's like, he owns his own business. He can kind of, in his place now, obviously, maybe set his own hours a little bit. But I still think it's a fun question here, because you've worked, different hours in the past too. But so my question is, would you rather work 4 10-hour days, referred to as 4 10s, or 5 8-hour days? So I'm curious what your thought is on this.
Yeah, both sound pretty good. I work like 6 10s now.
Yeah, I work 7 8s.
I think my gut tells me like 4 10s. I think having the 3-day weekend is a lot of like, I think I like the idea of that 3-day weekend. I think like any time in my past, I would have always said 4 10s. As I think about it a little bit more, I mean, I do like my job. I like what I do. Like, I don't wake up in the morning and like dread going to work. Like, I really do enjoy the type of work I do. I enjoy working with clients. So it's not like, I don't have that like dread that maybe some other people have.
Sure.
And I do like the flexibility. So like my fiance works 4 10s. I work primarily, call it 5 8s. And I like the flexibility of, the shorter amount. Obviously, you only have 24 hours in a day. Right. Some of that's being taken up with sleep and hygiene and eating. And so the less you work, it gives me more time to like get a workout in basically every day. And obviously, as your days start getting longer, because we could also say, what about 3/12s? Would you rather work 3/12, right?
Then you get a slippery slope there.
Yeah. And you can get to this place where it's like, man, you start getting to a place where you don't have time to like get your workout in or walk your dog. And so, with the 5 10s, or 5 8s, it really does give you, I think, enough time to get a workout in, walk the dog, spend time with, your significant other, watch a football game if it's on, right? I'm not sure. I think 4 10s used to always be my default answer, and I thought like the obvious answer, but maybe now the more I think about it, I like my job. I don't mind doing it 5 days a week. Having that extra free time every day isn't the worst thing in the world. So I don't know. I might gravitate actually towards 5 8s, which kind of sounds crazy even to myself.
Yeah. No, it's a great argument. It's funny to see kind of the full circle of that too. But I'm exactly the same way. I on paper, somebody tells me I can work 410s. I'm like, oh yeah, heck yeah, sign me up for that without a doubt, no question. But I think about like, what time am I starting this job? Am I starting it at at 8 a.m.? If I'm doing that, I'm working 8 to 6,
right?
Probably 8 to 6:30 with a lunch in there, like whatever it might be. And suddenly you're, in the morning, you're not going to have a lot of time during those days. If you have a doctor's appointment, if you have whatever that comes up, it kind of just eats those specific days. So, I do like 5 8s. You know what? I've always told everybody, I was like, if I could work 5 6s, or 5 days a week, 6 hours a day,
sure,
you would get the most productive me ever. Because those last 2 hours of the day, honestly, for myself, like, hopefully no one from my company is listening, but I'm not, I tend to set up my day specifically around my first 6 hours being my first productive. So 5 6s would be my dream, but I do like 8-hour days. If I start at like, right now I start at 7 a.m., I'm off at 3:30. I have the whole rest of the day to do that, to do whatever I want to do. And it really works out well. So I think on paper, sure, 410s, I'd like to have that extra day off. But then on that extra day off, I'm probably just doing everything I couldn't do during the week. So
would you rather 5 8s or 6 6s?
Oh, interesting. Probably 5 8s.
I think I would too, despite 6 6s being less total hours.
Exactly. But. Yeah, I'm giving up an extra day of like fully being off.
Yeah.
But anyway, fun question there. That actually dove in nicely there. So I'd love to hear everybody's thoughts on it. Let us know. Do you guys prefer a 4-day work week with 10-hour days? With 3 12s, you hit that. Maybe 2 20s. I don't know. Like what are you working with there? So let us know. We'd love to hear it. And as always, thanks everybody for tuning in this week. We hope you enjoyed it. And Ryan, I'll turn it over to you, man.
As always, stay the course.
Thank you for joining us for the Fiscal Physical Podcast. Until next time, happy listening. And as always, stay the course. If you have a question or topic suggestions, please email us at podcast@alchemywealth.com. If you enjoyed today's discussion, subscribe to the podcast to ensure you never miss an episode. And consider leaving us a rating and review on your favorite platform. This helps other listeners like you find the show. For more resources, you can visit Alchemy Wealth Management's website at www.alchemywealth.com or find your Fiscal Physical, the book, on Amazon. We'd be remiss if we didn't mention that personal finance is just that, personal. Please don't take anything we say as advice. The preceding content is for informational and entertainment purposes only. It's not an offer or a solicitation, nor should it be construed or relied upon for tax, legal, or investment advice. It doesn't consider your personal financial situation or objectives and may not be suitable for you.